Good morning. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of 24th of February. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. Hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. Okay. Now, we saw a steep decline on Friday. And I would note, I just wanted to, this is something I was talking, you might have seen me talking about this on the bigger picture yesterday, but I'll just talk about it again. We've seen a very steep decline on the hourly, and I was saying that when we see a steep decline like this, we tend to see an immediate rally afterwards. We've got one here, immediate rally. That rally might only last a day, it might not even last a day, but we should see a rally. And we got another one here, and we got another one here, and we've got another one here. Some of these are significant lows, of course, like this one and this one. It's we're expecting to see a rally, and we've seen a rally. That rally doesn't need to last more than a day or so. I am thinking this one might last a little longer. I'll talk more about that in the RTH charts, but that's a nice little decline, and this is encouraging because we've got some beautiful, really nice topping setups here. In fact, I was just saying in my post last night, which I posted a few hours ago. I've just reposted it on Twitter, so have a read of that if you haven't read it already. But I was saying that I'm not sure I've seen as nice of a topping setup across all four of these main indices in the last 20 years. So I mean that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to deliver, but it's got a decent chance of delivering. And Friday was a good start. NQ, nice start there too. Hasn't got down to the monthly pivot here. NQ was pretty much the strongest. Yeah, it was the strongest. And we're basically testing the monthly pivot on ES. We're still some way short of it on NQ, and we haven't broken rising support on NQ. RTY, down in the dumps. Pretty slow on the rally so far as well. And Dow the same. DAX and STX, this was looking more interesting last night. We've got a head and shoulders here, but that head and shoulders on the verge of failing here on DAX, and it has already failed on ESTX. Could we be forming an alternate right shoulder on both of them? Yes, we could. But equally, we may not be. We will see. But we should see a rally here. We quite often see a low here after a decline like this, but I'm thinking this has a pretty good shot of just rallying for a day or two and then going up. Let's have a look at what I was thinking on the bigger picture charts here. So bear with me a moment. Right, okay. Now the first thing to say is look at Dyer here. We've got because we've had this very strong compression of the band, and Dyer is breaking out of it. Now we've got this is less so on ES and NQ, but it's very much the case on Dyer and also on IWM. We've had this breakdown, and we've actually closed significantly below the 3SD lower band. I've got that at 435.70 here, and got 434.15. That was, this went significantly below. This is favouring a rally of a day or so to allow the bands to start expanding a bit. Then we could see like a 2 or 3 day bounce on this and then a decline. We will see. Looking at SPX and ES. We're nowhere near the 3SD lower band here. In fact, we haven't reached the lower band yet. Well, we have broken this rising support trend line here. If we have a look at, we've broken the daily middle band. Sorry, not got to the daily lower band, and obviously we're not threatening the 3SD lower band at all. On the hourly chart, I found this very nice looking little wedge, and we've broken down from that. I think this is likely to follow through to the downside, and we've got obviously this lovely looking nested double top setup, which hasn't broken down yet, but I think might well do. Looking at the Qs, we've got the Qs. We had a move down to the daily lower band and daily middle band, and just a closed slightly below it, but not actually an awful lot. I wouldn't count that as a hard break so far, and we haven't broken the rising support, but it's certainly encouraging. One thing that's also very encouraging, and I talk about this on the post I did today, was on the weekly chart. We've obviously, one thing to mention, I didn't mention it on the post, is that we've got some support coming up at the potential support at the weekly middle band at 5959 on SPX. But we saw this really nice bearish engulfing candle. Now we've seen quite a few of these in the past, and they're not as impressive as people seem to think that they are. But nonetheless, they're not bad. They're not bad, and they've got quite a few instances here where we've seen little highs made with them, shorter-term ones. But we've got one here, significant high. We've got one here, significant high. We've got one here, significant high. We've got one here, significant high, and we got one here. All of these ones I've just pointed out delivered retracements of 5% or more. We'll see what we get this time. But I am expecting to see at least some more downside. We've also got on NDX. I tend to use NDX on the weeklies and the monthlies, but we've got another bearish engulfing candles there. It's nice. We haven't broken below the rising support, which I'm watching, but it is nice. And given the level of uncertainty we've got here, and this is again something I was talking about extensively in my post that I did much earlier this morning, and I just retweeted. It's a nice setup. We've got these lovely topping setups. Got a beautiful level top here on the Qs. On SPX, we've got a nested double top here. We haven't broken down from either of them yet, but they are encouraging. And we could see some decent retracements here, and I'm thinking we might well. And Dyer, of course, got this beautiful double top here. And if we have a look at IWM, bear with me a moment. On IWM, one thing to mention on the daily chart, we saw the 3SD lower band was at 218.84, and we closed at 217.8. So we closed below the 3SD lower band, having traded a fair amount of the day below it. Again, that's unusual. Again, that is suggesting a rally that probably takes a day or two. And we've got here, we've got a potential channel here, having had a fairly formless rise. Sometimes you only really see the pattern at the end. This is actually established a decent looking rising channel at the low on Friday. I'm not expecting that to hold terribly soon, but it could hold. We will see. Looking at DAX, we've got, hang on, a move down towards the daily middle band. Again, this has been much stronger. This has actually been stronger than the Qs. But I've got that at basically 22,000 dead. Haven't reached it yet, but I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to. And we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed here, and a larger one actually fixed on the decline on Friday. So that's looking nice. Nikkei got down to the daily lower band again. Probably needs a bit of a rally here. If this is going to go down with the US indices, and it looks as though it might, then we may need a rally of a day or two just for the daily bands to start expanding a bit. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. DX, this is actually a really nice looking bull flag that has underthrown bullishly. We've got a nice looking little double bottom here. If we see a sustained break up over the weekly pivot at 106.68, then I'd be looking for a move up to 107.25, and that can get us over this declining resistance. But this is a nice looking flag. I think this is probably setting up a retest of this high here at 110. ZB had an IHS here that failed, and we've gone up a bit. I am wondering about a retest of this high. That could, in that case, be the second high of double top. We will see. No current negative divergence. On CL, we saw a pretty significant rejection on Friday. This double bottom had broken up and has failed and gone back to retest the low. This could be a larger double bottom here now, and we'll see how that goes. But equally, I think we could be looking at a breakdown here in sympathy with equities, depending on, of course, what happens on equities here. NG, this still looks like a bull flag forming, less nice than it was, but I've got a nice looking overall double bottom here, which is broken up with a target in the 6.25 area, I think. And at the moment, I'm not seeing anything compelling saying that isn't going to make target. GC has gone a little higher. We've got a nice looking nested double top. I would note something I was talking about in the bigger picture yesterday was we've got a sell signal on gold. I think we've certainly got a couple on copper. We've got one on GDX. We've got one on GDXJ. There's not a bad setup for a trace here. And of course, we've got a little top set up here on gold. well, I think that might play out. We've got support in the 28.85 area. See a sustained break below that. I think we'd be heading back towards the monthly pivot in the 27.83 area, although that will only be the monthly pivot for this week, of course. SI, I've got targets to the upside, and this is looking fairly formless, but HG, I've got a nice looking head and shoulders, which is trying to break down here. I think we might see a bit of consolidation with equities over the next day, but I think that's got a decent chance of heading down towards the monthly pivot area at 4.24. Although again, by the time we reach it, it may well not be the monthly pivot, as that's only the monthly pivot till Friday. Okay, not a lot to say on currencies. KC, this is now a nice bull flag, and we've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. I think this is probably leaning towards a retest of this high here in about the 428 area. And when we see that, I am wondering about a top forming soon. By historical standards, coffee is pretty high. All right, sugar, heading towards the IHS target in the 20.35 area, and I'm not seeing anything compelling saying we aren't going to make it. But we do have a 60-minute sell signal brewing, but then we've had a sell signal brewing basically since here. So it's got most of the way to the IHS target during that brewing, so there's no particular reason to think it's not going to make it the rest. CC, we've broken down and made a lower low here. This could give us a decent bull flag pattern. If so, I've got a target for that in about the a shade below 9,000, and that could also give us that's giving us a little bit of a positive divergence here. That could give us a decent 60-minute buy signal brewing. On wheat, we're breaking slightly below. No, we aren't actually. Hang on a second. My trend line has drifted overnight. Bear with me a moment. Right. Okay. We're seeing a bit of some Pinocchioing below the rising support here. Not really a clear support trend line support break here so far, but this is looking a little ragged. The support. I am thinking we may well break down and do a retrace here on corn. Haven't really got a double top here anymore, but I am wondering about some retracement. On soy, we've got a nice looking double top which has broken down, and this kind of looks like a bear flag forming, so I'm wondering if we're going to make it down to this target here, which would be in the 1,000 to 1,006 area. All right, looking at CT, we've still got a very nice looking flag channel here which has broken down. Could see a retest of this high. Could be the second eye of a double top if we see that, or it could go down directly, but I am leaning very strongly towards seeing a retest of this low here in the 66.2 area. Looking at lumber, no obvious target here apart from a retest of 635, which we're pretty close to and we might make. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, but that hasn't mattered so far. Live cattle has broken up from a nice looking falling wedge. It's not broken up with any conviction so far, but I'm thinking this may be heading back up towards a retest of this high here, just in the 207.5 area. And lean hogs got hammered last week. We've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. I'm wondering about a rally here. I'm not sure why it fell down this much. We could just see a return to the highs here. All right, let's have a look at questions. All right, I've had a look at cocoa. Right, cocoa. I'm leaning towards this being a long bullish consolidation stroke flag, and I think we're on the verge of getting a pretty decent looking flag. By historical standards, again, this is overpriced, but this isn't a bad setup. And this kind of consolidation I'd usually expect to break up. We will see, but I'm liking the upside here, ideally after reaching this trend line here in the 9,000 area. So we'll see. All right, great. Don't know if that's all right. No worries, mate. Okay, on ES, I'm expecting to see, on the equity indices, I'm expecting to see a rally that at least goes into probably lunchtime today. It needn't be a huge rally, but I would say that the way the 3SD lower bands are looking on the dailies on Dow and on IWM, I'm leaning really towards seeing a couple of days, probably. It would be unusual not to see that, but I mean, this could be unusual, and we could just head fairly directly lower from here. A couple of those rallies I was talking about only really lasted till the next open. I think just one of them. But that's not unknown. We could see that today. See a fail at the week to pivot at 6073, but I've been leaning towards seeing a little more. We will see. I'm liking the topping patterns. I did a post yesterday, and returning and looking at all of these, and so have a read of that. But after that, I'm liking the downside. We've got some really, really nice topping patterns here. We've got a boatload of uncertainty, which, as I was pointing out, markets traditionally don't like. And we've got a lot of. I mean, I'm glad to see that it is actually. I mean, frankly, I think it should have been done years ago. But I mean, I'm glad to see someone is actually paying attention to the fact that the Fed and the U.S. government has been spending far, far, far too much, and is actually paying some attention to that. I don't particularly like the way it's been done, but someone's got to do it. But the thing is, certainly in combination with that and with potential tariffs, and I mean, we could see inflation go up this year. I think Trump's got a whole load of tax cuts that he seems very keen to deliver. I'm wondering where the money comes from for that. Not sure Doge is going to be able to produce anything close to it. But also the other thing is a whole load of federal employees are being sacked. It's possible we're going to see a spike in unemployment and a spike in interest rates from inflation that could send the US into recession. Trump was saying that this is a process that may well involve a significant amount of pain, and well, that is the kind of pain we could see. That's not going to be good for markets. Uncertainty is not good for markets. So I think we've got a lovely setup for a retracement here. I think it might well deliver. We will see how that goes. But I think we made potentially a decent start on that on Friday. And I'm watching with great interest. Yeah, lower GDP. I think there could be quite a lot of pain this year. At the very least, that's unlikely to be good for equities. And all we're really looking for is giving back some of and most of the gains since August. That's not really a huge ask as retracements go, and that would something we'd often see in terms of a bullish retracement. So we will see, which is what I would be leaning towards it being. We'll see how that goes, but certainly, I was saying last year when Trump got elected, this was likely to be an interesting year. So far, this has been an interesting year, and I think it's probably going to get more interesting. We will see how that goes. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a look at my posts, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Take care. See you tomorrow morning.